a pleasure for me to be here. I have always enjoyed watching UVU become the great university that it is, and it's a pleasure for me to have the opportunity to speak to some of you. And I hope that some of the things I might say today might be of some benefit to all of you. I am going to do three things. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, just to kind of give you some background so that some of the things I say later might make more sense. And also, I'm going to give you a little bit of history of Bear River Mutual and why that's significant in my life, but also so that you're aware of what's done here in the state of Utah as well. And then finally, what I've been asked to speak on is how do you find success in your business careers? How do you find success in general? And it's been an interesting process for me to look back. This is I feel like I'm the student sitting in the seats that you're in not that long ago, and I was wondering, what am I going to be when I grow up? I'm not sure. I'm interested in a lot of things, and you know, my life is moving quickly, etc. And it seems like I was just in your chairs not very long ago, and asking a lot of questions as to what's going to happen. The next thing you know, your life goes by, a lot of things happen, and you go, my goodness, what transpired so quickly just doesn't seem possible. But it gives you a chance to reflect, and I hope I can give you some of the things that I've experienced in my life that might be helpful to you as you strive for success in your lives. So first of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm just an ordinary guy, and I guess when we start talking about success, we have to define what that might be. But I think it's something where along the line you might find some ways to have happiness in your life, some peace of mind, feel that you're a little secure, that maybe you're not worried about where the next meal is going to come from, or do I have the money to pay for a house, etc. But that you've done the kinds of things that you've had a positive impact on the world, and you feel good about yourself. And so there's lots of ways to define success, but a little bit about my background. I'm the oldest of 8 children. There were 4 boys born first, and then four sisters. And of course, as brothers, we always thought the sisters had it easy. They didn't have to do any of the things that we had to do, all that sort of thing. As was mentioned earlier, I grew up on a farm in southeast Idaho. It was about 30 miles southwest of Blackfoot, Idaho. This is a picture of what the farm looked like back in 1957. And this is where I grew up. I thought I was cursed to be born on a farm. I didn't think that was quite fair because we had to work. And I got my first white-collar job, that's what my dad called it, on the farm. He said we wear long-sleeve white shirts when we haul hay. And that was my first white-collar job. Where I grew up was kind of interesting. This was the church that I attended for the first 19 years of my life. You'll notice those little houses in the back. Those weren't just little houses. Those were really outhouses. There was no running water in the church. There was no bathrooms, that sort of thing. So my kids think I'm one of the original pioneers in southeast Idaho, having grown up in this kind of an environment. This is what looking at the farm looks like today. I have a brother who's still there that runs the farm. It's about 600 acres. It's a small farm. But we raised mostly hay and grain because we raised cattle. This is a picture of my father with one of our bulls, and that's a picture of me when I was a senior in high school with one of the steers that I was using to show in some of the fat stock shows. But that's what we did. We raised cattle. After I graduated from high school, I had the opportunity to go to Rick's College. That's where I went my first year. When I was there were about 2,300 students. Today there's over 18,000 students, and it's now called BYU Idaho. It will always be Rick's College to me. They can't convince me otherwise. But I had a great experience there my first year. And then at the conclusion of my first year, I left as a missionary for the LDS Church, and I was sent to Independence, Missouri. I spent most of my time in southern Missouri and in Oklahoma as a missionary. When I got back, I transferred to BYU. And I ended up graduating from BYU with a major in elementary education. I was actually an elementary school teacher by training. And I had a minor in math with a minor in military science. This is right in the middle of the Vietnam War, and we knew that we were going to be going in the military. 3 days after we were married is when the draft came out, and I was very high in the draft. I was going one way or the other, so I decided if I can go as an officer, it might be a better lifestyle. All I could tell is, as my wife saw the number come up on the TV screen, she started to cry, because it meant I was leaving. So when I graduated from BYU that afternoon, I also received my commission in the United States Army. I had graduated as a distinguished military graduate, so I was able to pick the branch that I wanted, and I decided, well, I might as well go as a medical officer because maybe I'll have a chance to work at a hospital and look at maybe hospital administration. Well, as I went in the military, I never got close to a hospital. They thought I should have been a combat arms officer, and so I was attached to the 9th Infantry Division as one of the first medical officers with this division. It had been shot up pretty bad in Vietnam, and it was brought back here and assigned to Fort Lewis, Washington, and we became the main strike force for the West Coast, and we were on alert to actually have orders. We were right next to McChord Air Force Base. They would give us orders. We would load everything up and be in the air. We wouldn't know what part of the world we were going to until we were in the air, so our wives and all of our families had no idea where we were. This was a great experience for me, and I learned a lot in the military. But when I got out, I had to decide, now what am I going to do? Am I going to go back into teaching, or am I going to do something else? Well, first of all, I tell you, I have 7 children. These are all my kids. I have 6 boys, and then we adopted our daughter. We have 22 grandchildren, and all of my kids live here in Utah County. 8 live in Orem, and 6 live in Orem, and 1 lives in American Forks. So they're very close, still here. When I got out, I had to make this decision. I ended up going to Safeco Insurance Company, and I ended up starting my career in insurance, not because I thought insurance was cool. In fact, I had no intentions of going into insurance. I thought, why would I want to do that? I won't even let one of those guys in my house. Why would I want to go into this business? When I got out, having been a medical officer, I had been given the opportunity to, I had a job selling hospital equipment to hospitals. And I was 2 days away from starting that job when the recruiter that had been working with me asked if I would just do a courtesy interview with this other company so that they could see the kind of people he was working with. I went. They offered me a job on the spot. I thought that was a boring thing. It was an insurance company. And then they said, well, would you interview with one more person? And I did. I was so impressed with the people, I thought, well, maybe I need to think about this. And he offered me a job on the spot. I think what was so attractive to the second person is he was a retired Navy commander. And he had his own ship, etc. And I think I just naturally gravitated to him. And I was just so impressed with his demeanor and the way he presented himself. So I thought, I'll do this for a couple of years to get some business experience. I don't like insurance, but I'll start here in a very subtle way, and I won't really have to deal with it, but it'll give me something on my resume that'll help me as I move forward. Well, this individual ended up being one of my major mentors in my life. He taught me everything. He kind of tucked me under his wing for some odd reason, and he helped me get started. And as I got into the insurance business, I found out that it was much bigger and much broader than I ever imagined, and there were so many aspects of it that I didn't understand. All I knew is the salespeople and the fact that most of the time I didn't want their product. Well, I went to work with Safeco, ended up starting as a personal line supervisor, and ended up being a general operations manager in this division office where there's about 350 people. I had 5 departments, and about 78 of those people reported directly to me. I was contacted by my uncle who lived here in Orem. He was a main developer. He owned a construction company and a real estate company, and he wanted to develop an insurance agency. So he asked if I would come back to Utah and help develop an insurance agency, which I did. It was the Adams Insurance Agency. Now, that's pretty original, but it works really well. Back in those days, you used the yellow pages, and Adams was always at the front of the list. And so I just used my own name, and that was about as original as it got to be. I worked with my uncle and my cousin. We were in the same offices, and my cousin was over the real estate division, and I worked with him for a couple of years. He actually is now the governor of the state of Utah, Gary Herbert. My middle name is Herbert. That's what H stands for. So I got to work with Gary for a number of times, and I would have to tell you, even with my staff, he called me one time when I was doing a lecture with my staff. We had some big meetings, and I actually hung up on him. And then the staff thought that was really funny that I hung up on the governor of the state. I said, he'll be okay. At any rate, we eventually, the market back in 1977 was really tight in Orem. Utah County, if you didn't work for BYU or Geneva Steel, you almost didn't have a job. And times have changed, but it was very difficult for us to attract markets to be able to do what we wanted. So we eventually sold this agency to a large agency. And I was with them for about 6 months and found out these people are not too good. I'm not sure about their values, and I'm not sure about their business ethics. So I walked away, and one afternoon I lost everything. That became one of the times in my life when I thought I was a failure. I had totally failed at doing this particular thing. But eventually I moved on. Safeco found out that I was disgruntled and had left the agency, and they actually asked me to come back and work with them. And so I went into marketing, and they created a position for me here in Utah. I was given the worst territory in this unit because the other person who was here, he kept all the really good agents so that he could qualify for all the trips, etc. And I got all the worst agencies and all the outlying areas, which ended up being a major blessing for me because I learned this state very well. I learned who all the players were, etc. A time when I could have been very discouraged and said, gee, why am I doing this? You know, I've been given the worst territory, etc. It ended up again being something very good. Eventually, I went to Guarantee National and was the branch manager here. Eventually, in this particular position, we went from 4 states that we were involved in, and I actually opened up 28 additional states for insurance. We took it from about a $4 to $8 million company to about a $500 million company. And this was a great experience for me. I then left. A new president came on board that I wasn't happy with his value system and the way he wanted to treat customers and the way he wanted to treat employees. So I left and resigned from that company, and I ended up going to Transwestern General Agency in Salt Lake City. We represented a number of companies, probably 40 or 50 different companies, and I was responsible for 8 western states, and we had about 4,000 offices that we sold products through. I was eventually hired by Bear River Mutual in 1999. And I almost didn't go there because it was a small company. They wrote about $32 million in volume. And I thought, this is probably not going to work very well. But I went, and some great things happened. It's been a fantastic experience. And I'll tell you a little bit about them as well. Bear River Mutual has been around for a long time. It's a mutual insurance company. And I might express to you that the mutual concept started back in 1752 with Benjamin Franklin. He was the first founder of the first mutual insurance company. And the mutual concept is one where the policyholders are actually owners of the business, technically. Everything you do is to put money back into the company and to make the company better from a financial standpoint and to provide lower premiums for its policyholders. Versus a stock company, which is really, like all companies that are owned by stockholders, it's focusing around money. They can generate a lot of money because they can go out and issue more stock, which allows them to grow and progress, and that gives the stockholders or the owners of the company a return on their investment. But it ebbs and flows. If you're doing well, people want to buy and your stock goes up. If you're not doing very well, it goes down and people leave you and you're kind of floundering from time to time, trying to figure out how to keep the stock market happy with you on a quarterly basis. So 2 different companies. Well, the company was formed by Willard Hanson, who was a great farmer and an entrepreneur. He started the company back in 1909. It actually started from the concept of the cheese factory that his father owned. It was a cooperative cheese factory where they brought milkmaids in from Denmark, recent converts to the Mormon church. They'd bring milkmaids in, and they would work for 2 years to milk the cows and make the cheese. And they would get the cows from as far north as Malad, Idaho, down to Heber Valley. And they would get cows from all these other ranchers and farmers, and they would pool their efforts to run this operation, and then they would split all the profits out to all the owners of the cows. It was a cooperative, if you will. They got the same idea and said, we could do the same thing with insurance. So what they did is they formed the Bear River Mutual Fire Insurance Company. It was a group of 15 farmers who put together their resources to pay for claims, fire insurance claims, on their hay, their buildings, and their homes. But they only allowed farmers who were really doing a good job, managing their property, etc. And so this is how the company got started. Now, this is what the operation looked like, and this is where we got the name Bear River Mutual. Bear River was just about a quarter of a mile away from this home over the bluffs down to the Bear River. And that's where the Bear River name came from its early origins. This is what the home looks like today. It's a beautiful home still today. His grandson actually lives in this home. And it's actually 4 levels. The upper level actually is all hardwood floor, and that's where they had dances and activities for the community in the top level of this home. They had 4 products, and that's still what they have today. And you can see that each one of them came on at a different time. Bear River is actually now about the 6th largest property and casualty personal lines company in the state of Utah. It has been around since 1909, and next year will be its 110th year anniversary. They only do business in Utah, and you can see here's the growth that's happened over the years. Our first year, we did $1,958 in total premium. When I came in 1999, we had finally got up to $32 million in annual premiums. We ended the year in 2017 at $163 million in written premiums, and we're about a $250 million asset company. So that's a little bit of the history of Bear River. Now, let's talk with the time that I have left about some of the things, and I'm going to move very quickly. Here are some of the things that I think might be helpful for you to look at how to become successful, and the things that I have learned over the years and in this experience to maybe be beneficial to some of you. Most of you are asking this question, what am I going to be when I grow up? Well, I decided to retire at the age of 70 because I thought that's probably a good time to retire. I want to do a lot of other things while I have good health, etc. But I've always found that that's a question I still have. What am I going to be when I grow up? Because life never ends. And that's the great experience that we have, especially in the United States. But sometimes we feel like this, we're paddling along in life, and sometimes we always feel like that we got that proverbial shark behind us, and we're not sure what it's going to do or when it's going to hit. And you've got the same kind of issues going on in your life. Where am I going to be? How am I going to take care of my family? Where am I going to be 5 years from now? What's going to be my career ultimately? Well, I want to talk to you very quickly about some of the things that I've found that I hope are meaningful to you. You know them all. There isn't anything here that you'll be surprised with. But I can tell you that this is what makes a difference in what I've seen in my life. First of all, when you think of an iceberg, sometimes we see the top level can kind of represent our personality, and the bottom level really represents our character. What we see is like the top of the iceberg, but who we are is what's underneath. It's all the things that we don't see. It's the issue of what really drives us, and that's what I want to talk to you about. Some of the rules for success from Don Adams. First of all, you got to work hard. Every time I bring an employee in, at Bear River, I interviewed every employee that ever came into that office. They had to have an interview with me and with my senior executives. Every employee, whether it was a receptionist to a highly technical person, an analyst, whatever, they had to have an interview. And this is what I tell them. If you want to know what's going to provide you success, you work hard and you have a good attitude. That's critical. Do you know who you want to become? I love this picture because how do we see ourselves? How do you see yourself? Are you saying, well, gee, I'm just barely making it? What? Or do you see yourself as something that's dynamic, that's going to make a difference, not only to your family and to your life, but to the people around you? You look for a mentor. Find people who can help you succeed at what you want to become. You have to set goals. You have to be careful who you listen to. This is very critical. What I like to say is avoid the cave people. Do you know who the cave people are? They're the citizens against virtually everything. Avoid the cave people with everything you've got. The cave people will pull you down. They do not want you to succeed. They will tell you all day long what you can't do, not what you can do. Don't listen to them, because it will only slow you down in your pursuit of success and happiness in your life. Also, work with and hire people that are smarter than you. Now, I'm assuming many of you, and I put the hire people who are smarter because many of you are going to be in supervisory or management type of roles at some time in your life, in all kinds of capacities. Do not be afraid to hire people who are better than you or that you think are better than you, because they will make a difference in your life. I'm reminded of the story of the old farmer in Kentucky who used to put his mule in the Kentucky Derby. And after watching this for a few years, a person came up to him and said, "John, why are you putting your mule in the Kentucky Derby? You know he's not going to win." He says, "Yeah, he's never won, but based on the company he keeps, he's the fastest mule in Kentucky." And I think there's a lesson for us to learn there. Never be afraid to work with and have around you people who you think might be smarter than you. I was smart in the early days. I married above myself. That's where I started. Marry somebody who's always better than you, because they lift you up. They make you better. And the same thing happens in the business world. Be curious. I love this quote from Albert Einstein. "I have no special talents. I'm only passionately curious." Are you passionately curious? Do you take the time to ask questions and to explore and say, how does this work? Or what is this all about? If you do this, it will open up all kinds of opportunities for you as you go through your career experience. That first individual, that Navy commander, Marv White, who hired me at the very beginning at Safeco, this is one of his quotes. He taught me to actually capture quotes. Any quote that I like. I have books of quotes. Anytime I see something I like, I write it down. And I realized I have actually 5 books of quotes that I've written down of various things. And this is one of those that he told me in the very beginning. Be pleasantly impatient. Now think about that. I love this picture of this little boy. He's got this smile on his face, but you know he's about to do something. And that's the way we ought to be. We ought to be pleasantly impatient. Don't be a problem for your employer. Be pleasant. Have that good attitude, but be pushing all the time to be doing better. Don't wait to be asked to do something. Be impatient. Learn as much as you can. That will bode well for you throughout your careers as well. Read. I thought when I was graduating from BYU that, boy, if I can finally get through graduation, if I finally get through this last class, then I don't have to worry about anything. I'll finally have my degree, I can move on. What I found is learning is a lifelong pursuit. Read anything. Read novels. Read business books. Read histories. Read personal biographies. Read newspapers. Read any kind of information you can on the internet or on your smartphones or wherever, but read. Do not think that your education is over when you finally graduate from UVU. It's just beginning. UVU is giving you an experience to learn how to learn. I've told many people that 50% of probably what I learned when I graduated from college, we found out wasn't true. Think about that. I was in the 3rd grade before there were phones in my area. And now we have iPhones. We have computers in our pockets that are bigger than the computers that I had at Safeco that took up 2 and 3 floors of the home office back in 1974. You carry bigger computers around with you all the time. You have information at your fingertips. If you don't know something, you just ask Siri, right? And it's kind of difficult because you'd like to ask Siri to how to do all your papers and stuff like that too, but they take a dim view of that in higher education circles. But read, continue to learn. Don't be afraid to fail. The greatest blessings that I've had in my career were my failures. I didn't think so at the time. I didn't like it. I was very discouraged. But I learned what I needed to know, and the things I learned in those experiences actually helped me in the last 20 years of my career to actually be in the positions that I was in and to know what to do and how to do it. So don't be afraid to fail. There we go. I'll get this right yet. Give back. Give back to the community. Bear River does a lot. We sponsored a lot of the theater at the Hale Center Theater in Salt Lake. It's been a great experience, great opportunity to get in front of the crowd and welcome them to the theater and to know that they're going to have a good experience in a quality place. So give back. Give service. Don't be afraid to help other people. We had a number of our employees helping the Boys and Girls Club in Murray clean up their whole yard, get it back and refurbish it and get it back to good condition so that the kids could use it. It's a great experience. We give back in cars. We take some of our cars that have been totaled. We refurbish usually 2 to 3 of these a year with our vendors and car repair shops, and we've been able to give people cars who are having trouble getting to the hospital. There's a member of their family that's quite ill, etc., and we've been able to give back. It's a quiet kind of thing, but it's made a difference in some people's lives. So don't be afraid to give back in all that you do. We've been participants of the Keys to Success, where we try to offer scholarships to high school students who are performing. Some of you may have been actual participants in the Keys to Success program. It enabled you to come to college. It enabled you to come here to UVU. We hope that that's the case. And thank those that work for you. The man in the middle is one of our car repair shops in St. George. And we brought all these individuals in. And as president of the company, I wanted to thank them for what they do because they represent Bear River. When the customer comes in, that's who they see. If you have a bad experience with a car repair shop, you think it's Bear River. And I thanked him. And he came up to me and he actually had this plaque built for us at our 100-year anniversary because he said, in over 40 years, you're the first senior executive who has ever thanked me for what we do. Such a simple thing. He said, you knew my name and you thanked me. It changed everything. And so anytime I see him, he rolls out the red carpet for me. What a great experience. So don't be afraid to thank people. It's not about you individually. It's about everybody else. When you do that, there's great rewards. I love this picture. You might be feeling this a little bit today, and especially as you get closer to finals. But focus. Don't overload yourself. When you overload yourself, I refer to it with my staff, I say, is the donkey up? Have we done too much? Have we taken on too much? Because we can't focus. Because when you have too much on your plate, that's what happens. You become totally ineffective. So focus and avoid overload. Live your values. Don't let the trash get in your way. I could give you all kinds of stories about living your values. Do not be afraid to be honest and to all those virtues that you hear about. Do not be afraid to stand up for your values. You never have to back down. I could give you multiple stories that I've seen and witnessed in my life where because you stuck with your values, you actually gained respect and you didn't have to worry about sleeping at night. You could always sleep at night because you stuck to your value system. So don't be afraid to do that. Anybody who says otherwise, just remember this picture. It's just trash. Don't go there. Always make family a priority. If at the end of a career you've lost everything that really is important to you, you have had no success. Your family is typically the most precious thing you have in your life. You've got to make sure you balance it. You've got to make sure that they have time so that they know that you're a part of this process. So always keep family as a priority. It will also help you in your career. Excel in what you do. Be the best at what you can be. Bear River was recognized by the Ward Group, which is an analytical group, as one of the top 50 companies in the United States. Now, we're competing with the big guys. And this is just a little company here in Utah that for 5 years in a row, we were given that designation. And we were very proud of that. And this is a story that was written in A.M. Best with me on the front cover, where they were talking about the Bear River story. And it's because we were trying to do the right things in the right way. Be patient, avoid being greedy, and enjoy the journey. Don't try to be something too quickly. I have some people come in and they want to know how soon I'm going to retire and how soon I can become the president of the company. And you kind of smile and you say, I hope you do, but it's going to take some time. There's a journey. Enjoy it. You will regret it if you don't enjoy the journey all the while you're going through this experience. But don't be greedy in the process. It's not about how much you can make. That will come, and you'll be taken care of very nicely if you follow these basic principles. You can become very successful, and it isn't just about money. So be patient and enjoy the experience. Remember who you represent. You represent yourself, number one. You represent your family. And I will tell you, you also represent this institution. When people know that you've graduated from here or that you've participated in the UVU business school or the experience here, it should mean something. You should be proud of this, and the university should always be proud of what you've become as well. Just remember, we don't do it alone. We do it with a lot of other people. Now, personal accountability. I like this quote from Peter Drucker where he says, you can either take action or you can hang back and hope for a miracle. Miracles are great, but they are very unpredictable. You have to take control of your life. Be responsible for where you want to go and what you want to be. Don't let somebody else dictate that for you, because you are in control. You just have to remember that. And then have fun. Actually, that's a picture of me in the middle with two of my executives at Bear River. It's at a Halloween party, and actually when I came in, they didn't know who I was. But we have fun. And when you're doing things right, you can have fun. When you're doing things wrong, it's never fun. But as you put the organization together and as you do your part and are a great team player, you can have a lot of fun. And don't think work is a bore. Work should be fun. I haven't gone to work yet in my life because I enjoy what I do. It's not work. That's what I used to tell my kids. Pulling weeds in the garden is not work if you like pulling weeds or if you like a clean garden. So have fun. Life is tough. And, the first 100 years are the hardest. There are some days when you just feel like the wheels have come off everything you're working on. Everything you touch has gone wrong. You're going to have those days. But I'm telling you, don't let them pull you down. Get back up. I have learned through all the experiences that every day the sun keeps coming up. And how I approach it is critical. Bear River Mutual has been a great and fantastic company for me to basically end my career with. It's the people. There are three, the two ladies on the very back row on either end and the lady in the blue all have over 40 years experience with Bear River. They just retired last year. They were there when there were only 3 employees. Now, why would they stay? They stayed because they had a chance to grow and progress, and it was a great environment for them to fulfill and to become what they wanted to become. You see, it's all about the people. The executive team here at the bottom, we have a certain role to play. And this is not all the employees, but as many as I could get on the screen and still see the picture. It's those people that make the difference. It's the team. It's when you finally get out of you and realize if you help someone else be successful, you automatically become successful. And this is what is the secret for Bear River Mutual. The executives could be gone a week or a month and nobody would know. But if one of those people is gone, we know immediately, within hours, something is wrong. So remember, it's the people around you and working with organizations. That's what makes the difference. Now, I used to tell our employees, we're a noble cause. You know that insurance stigma, hey, we do bad things, we're bad people, we're trying to cut people out of money, etc. That's wrong. I would let a claims adjuster go for underpaying faster than I would for overpaying. Because you do what's right. If we're a part of a noble cause, we help rebuild that home. We help pay for that hospital bill when they've been in a car accident, etc. It's how you do it. All the companies have the same product, but how do you administer it and how you provide it to your customers makes all the difference. I don't care if you, at some point, have a fly fishing school or whatever you decide in your life to be. Turn it into a noble cause so that it is a positive influence on people. It's good for the community. It's good for the people around you, and then to be the very best at it. As I close, I like this one particular picture. This is a maxim that is used at West Point, and it says this: risk more than others think is safe, care more than others think is wise, dream more than others think is practical, expect more than others think is possible. I hope I've triggered some ideas with all of you in this short period of time. I will tell you, you're in the best place you could ever be. The business world and the opportunity for you to succeed is better now than at any other time in the history of this world. But it's all up to you. You make the difference. You will decide if you're going to be happy, if you're at peace with yourself, and if you can sleep at night based on the simple things I've talked to you today. I wish the best for you. I envy you. I wish I was kind of back in those seats again and I could do it again, because it's been a great trip and a great ride and a great experience in my life. And I wish you the very best as you finish here at UVU. Thank you. I think we have a few minutes. They asked if there might be any questions. I'd be more than happy to address them or tell you that I don't know the answer. Yes. In planning your week? There's definitely, you've got to manage your time. I became very involved with the Franklin Covey and Steve Covey years ago, and I was totally a believer in the process and system and actually taught some of those classes. And it helped me because I was involved in a lot of things. I had a family, I was active in the church, I was involved in business, and you could go on and on. But I had to learn to prioritize. And I had to take the ABCD approach to life and say, okay, I'd plan out my week and I'd know what I was doing. The thing I found as a CEO, I thought I was going to do this every day, and within 5 minutes of the time I got to my office, it wasn't what I had planned. But I always had a rule that if anybody came into my office, unless there was a problem, I would drop everything and listen to what they had to say. I always had an open door policy. But I learned tons of things. I could make better decisions because I was open. I spent time walking around the building every day. I spent time in agents' offices all the time. I was out in the repair shops. I was talking to a repair shop one time in Manti, Utah. And the person that was with me was one of my managers, and he took us into the shop, and he says, "This is the president of the company." And he says, "Yeah, sure." I thought, wow, I'm not dressed right. Anyway, but I said, have you never met a president of the company? He says, "Well, not from an insurance company." I said, "Well, today's your day. Here's my card. You can tell your wife you met the president of the insurance company." It blew him away. But you have to plan. If you don't plan, and if you're not out seeing people, you're going to be in trouble. Because at the end of the day, you're going to say, I missed all these important things. And the real challenge is making sure the things that don't count really are at the bottom of the list, and the things that really do count are at the top. You may not be able to finish them every day, but what if you spent 15 minutes on the really important things every day? By the time it's due or ready, you're done. Not like when I was going to BYU, working on that term paper the last night. I had that happen one time. Stayed up all night to get the paper all done, fell asleep at 6 o'clock, missed the class, got deducted. I thought, that was really stupid. I did all the work and I got nothing for it because I didn't plan. So planning is very critical. Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, I didn't burn bridges. They had me on a fast track when I was working in San Francisco, and I'd interviewed with the senior executives in Seattle. And when somebody got word that I had left the agency, it went back up the chain, and they said, get him in and see if we can get him to come back to the company. It's kind of a rare situation that you go back to a company twice. But I always had decided, and I always tell people, never leave the company the wrong way. Always leave in a way that they would want to hire you back if they could get you. At the same time, I would tell employees, listen, I hope we can help you. I hope we can have a fantastic experience. I'd love to see all of you be with that group where they were here for 40 years. But that's not practical in many cases, especially today. But I hope while you're here, you work hard and do the right things, and we'll help you be the most successful person you can be. And if you get an opportunity that's better for you and for your family, we'll be the first to applaud. But leave on good terms, because I have a number of people at Bear River who have come back the second time. They found out really it was pretty good at Bear River. And they wanted to come back and work again. So that's the secret in all your career. Never leave in a negative way. If you don't like it, leave. If you don't like the rules, leave. But do it so that they've got your 110% effort to the day you walk out the door. You will be amazed at how many doors open because people talk. And people in the business world talk a lot. And they know who are the good employees and who are the bad ones. And let me give you another secret. When you climb the ladder of success, I hope all of you realize that the crowd is at the bottom of the ladder. That's where the crowd is. The higher up you go, the less competition there is. With all the people my age that are retiring, there is a massive opportunity. There's a massive problem in business in general for people who have the skill sets and who can work with people. You guys are sitting on a gold mine, and I don't think you know it. Because there's so many people, there's thousands of my age leaving daily. And the gap has to be filled, and businesses are growing. There's a lot of things happening. You, if you prepare yourself, have total opportunities in front of you. So always work hard, do the best you can. If you don't like it, go someplace else. And life is too short to stick it out because you don't like it. Go someplace else, and make sure you're a positive influence, though, while you're there. Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. I wish I'd have been smarter. That might have helped. But I'd try to think. I'd go into my office at 6 o'clock in the morning and stare at the wall and try to think of all the things I could do to be better. But I was taking classes. I was doing a number of things to try to get there. It was just a bad time in the marketplace. And I felt like we were doing okay, but I didn't feel like I was really succeeding the way we should. And the market was low. There was a lot of competition in the area. There was a lot of things happening. And I think going back, if I had been just a little bit smarter and maybe pushed a little bit longer, what I didn't know, this was about a 3-year mark. For an insurance agent to be successful, you've got to go 5 years. I stopped too soon. I learned that the hard way. If I could have withstood the challenge to go another 2 more years, it could have made all the difference in the world. But I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody to talk to help me at that point in time. And that's where I made a major mistake. I have 2 sons that actually own an agency here in Utah County, and they're actually one of the top 10 producers for Bear River. And that's the very first thing I told them. I said, if you can last 5 years, you'll be very successful. If you continue to work every day for the rest of your life. If you start playing and start goofing off, then you'll never be very successful. But now, once they got by the 5 years, they totally took off. So that was the mistake I made there. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the chance to be here, and I really wish you well. Have a great day, and I hope you'll enjoy the experience you've got going on here at UVU, and we'll look for you out in the papers and all that stuff as you all become extremely successful. I can say, I knew those people. I couldn't see them very well, but I could see their eyes. They had that tenacity. So thanks.